Well, the reason why we're arguing for more Assembly members is because the way Wales is governed has changed enormously over the last 14 years of devolution. The Assembly now has a lot more powers. It's got pretty much twice the budget it had in 1999, and has lawmaking powers as well. And if you compare the Assembly to different institutions like the Scottish Parliament or the Northern Irish Assembly, it's actually very, very small. So we think 100 is about right for the kind of the powers the Assembly has.
Of course, during the 2011 referendum, we argued that there would be likely to be another 20 AMs, so that would make it 80 after a yes vote.
Yeah.
And every single senior politician who argued against us and the Yes campaign said that that wouldn't happen. So in that sense, it's very difficult to introduce another 40 AMs without going to the people, without asking the people, because they were told during that last referendum that a yes vote wouldn't lead to more politicians.
Well, I think there's two things there. I mean, back in 2004, the Richard Commission looked at the size of the Assembly and came up with 80. So people were talking about this before the 2011 referendum.
But we know that, and that's why we brought it up in the referendum. We knew exactly what the discussions had been, but every politician denied it. And I was sitting next to Carl Jones when he said there would be no need for more politicians. And I think at a time of economic distress, the idea of more politicians in Wales, which the people will have to pay for, is pretty unpalatable. Well, there are other methods. I understand that capacity is stretched, but there are other methods. The MPs are doing a lot less since devolution. Why not bring them down to Wales, to the Bay, to work on pre-legislative scrutiny, for example, those things that they have skills in, and so that all the politicians then from Wales will be working together in a more collaborative way as well.
Well, there's two things there. I think, firstly, nobody's suggesting that the Assembly should grow overnight. Everybody who talks about the need for a larger Assembly accepts that ultimately the people of Wales should have a say. Now, whether that's in a referendum or whether that's in manifestos that political parties put to the people in 2015 and 2016 or beyond, you're right, the people of Wales should ultimately decide this, so we don't disagree on that. I think the issue in terms of cost, though, and whether you can kind of maybe get MPs to do a little bit more in terms of Assembly scrutiny, really doesn't address the fundamental problem. What we've had over the last few years is everybody's just kind of applied one sticking plaster after another sticking plaster. And the danger is the whole place is going to create...
But it's always going to be like that until we split away completely from the UK. It'll always be, we need another tidying up exercise.
It's not. I mean, one of the reasons why we say 100 is actually 100 is a sustainable figure for the long term, so you could actually devolve more powers or not to the Assembly.
What we're doing here is creating a mini Westminster, and I thought
but this place has got lawmaking powers now.
I thought we were different. I thought we were going to do something different.
What does that mean?
When they introduced devolution, I hoped it would be devolution, and actually what we should be looking at is devolving power from the Bay to local authorities.
But it's not an either or, is it?
And it's the opposite. The opposite is happening.
It's not an either or.
Because the Welsh Assembly government is now trying to take power away from local authorities in areas like planning and trying to centralise, and actually we want more devolution. So the suggestion is, I know that they're suggesting that we should have fewer councillors to pay for more AMs. Well, do we need that kind of centralisation? Isn't it better to have politicians who are less well paid, actually, who are closer to the people who are on the ground, and doesn't that suit our politics in Wales better?
I think, the settled will of the people of Wales is the devolved settlement now. In the 2011 referendum, the people of Wales voted 2-1, those who turned out voted 2-1 for this settlement, and opinion poll after opinion poll shows that devolution is increasingly...
But they were told that there wouldn't be more politicians, they were told there wouldn't be more
politicians automatically.
And it looks as if we're going to be getting both. And I think it's important to consolidate what's already there. We were told certain things during that referendum, and I think politicians should honour that. They should consolidate, they should...
But if they put it in a manifesto and present that to the people of Wales in 2015, that's a perfectly acceptable thing for them to do, surely. You'd be happy with that?
It's acceptable for them to put it in a manifesto and not tucked away at the back in tiny print.
I'm sure it'd be part of the debate if it wasn't
in the Labour manifesto before the referendum. We don't want that. We want it to be all out in the open and discussed properly. And perhaps if there's a referendum on tax, maybe this is something that should be brought into that.
Mm.